Paul Doswell with me, looking ahead to Saturday's big FA Cup game against Bath City. This is always a really important game for the football club. One win away from the first round proper.
Yeah, I saw. I think I saw something yesterday that we haven't got to the first round proper since 2014. So it's time that it's probably time that we did. Nearly did it last year. We got to the fourth qualifying round and lost out to Dulwich. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. Twerton Park is a fortress for them, and they don't often lose many games there. So I think we're going to have to be at our best to get through. But we go there in good spirits after a great win on Saturday.
When you looked at the draw, I suppose you must have thought that's probably one of the toughest ties you could have got out of the hat, because we know that last season how good a team Bath were when they played here.
Yeah, but I think Jerry Gill's done a brilliant job there as well. He's used the loan market and the relationship Bath have got in terms of geographically to Bristol. So he's got Bristol City players there, Bristol Rovers players there. Not sure how the Walsall one came about, Leach, but last year was the same. I thought that he used the loan market for the young players. I thought his young players last year were outstanding. And it's interesting to see that all of those players have moved on to a higher level, and in fact one of them has actually got into Colchester's first team. So last year they had 4 or 5 young players, including obviously Tom Smith, who I rate very highly. And I suppose it's a slightly different thing. What we've done this year is we've had a complete change in terms of ethos of how many young players we've got in the squad. We've now got 7 players that are between 18, 19 and 20. The only difference is I think we're developing our young players within the club, whereas Jerry's obviously having to develop players in essence for other teams. So that's the only sort of way that this year's sort of relationships between the two clubs change.
I suppose it's a similar matchup in some sense. You say they're both young squads, but young squads with good experience, with good talent.
Yeah, and that's where Jerry's clever. I think if you look at what he had last year, 6 or 7 experience, very similar to Weymouth. Weymouth had the ability to go and sign 6 or 7 really good players because they had to link with AFC Bournemouth, and it allowed them, to get 6 or 7 players in from Bournemouth last year for very, very little money out of the budget. And I would assume that Jerry's doing something very similar. You don't have to pay a great deal for the likes of Conway and Hines and Leach, as an example. Which has allowed him to go and bring in the likes of Ryan Harley, who's a quality player, great career with Exeter and NMK Dons. I know Ryan well. Paul Tisdale's a good friend of mine, and he was always talking very highly of him when he was at Exeter and MK. And then you've got Lloyd James, who I know from Southampton, very, very well. Again, packs of experience. Jack Battener's back, who's a decent centre-half at this level. And I like the boy Callum Evans as well. So when you look at their side, Freddie Grant, we know from Wealdstone, very good in the air, Freddie. Often goes for that knock-on. That's how they scored their goal against Billericay. So they've got a nice mix now between experience and the younger loans. And I think the boy Smith, who again he originally was on loan to Bath, the one that Jerry managed to keep, is probably one of the best midfielders in the division. So, we're very aware of what they've got and what they're about. And as I said, they got a very good identity as well. They know how they're going to play. They don't really go away from that identity of passing the football, which again is to be applauded. Not many teams in this league have got that faith in what they're doing. So yeah, it's a tough game. But then we've won 3 games already this season. We're unbeaten, and if we hadn't conceded a last minute two goals in injury time, we'd be 4 wins on the trot. So we're in a good place. We're getting better. I think that I've been saying for some time that give us maybe 8 or 10 games and you'll start seeing the real best of us. But it is encouraging what we're seeing.
All too aware by now the game will be played without spectators, but the good news is that Bath City are putting on a live stream, and the live stream will be shown in the Wesley Bar on Saturday. I've read a tweet that you put out during the week saying that you've been telling the players in the team talks, actually okay, there may not be supporters in the ground, but there's thousands of people, literally thousands of people in the Chatham case that are watching you. It's almost like a packed house to that extent. Yeah,
and it's important that they know that, because it's behind closed doors. It's very, very difficult. Jamie O'Hara said to me last week, I think everyone's finding it difficult. Getting perhaps difficult to get motivated, and you've got to find your own motivation for these games. And one of those motivating factors that I've used is, for the Chatham game, I think we had 3,300 people watch us and watch Chatham. And I think that's something I've been trying to get into the players, that we've got the Wesley hopefully packed out there on Saturday cheering them on. And as I said, that's something which we've talked about already this week, and I'll be talking again before the game on Saturday, because the players got to realise there's a lot of goodwill amongst our supporters for them to do well, and I'm sure it will cheer up anyone if we get through to the first round qualifying and get in the hat on Monday.
Indeed, and obviously it gives the opportunity for the fans to go and watch their team live in their local, and also it would be good for the club because it brings some funds in as well.
Much needed, Henry. I think the thing is now that is, all non-league clubs have done a phenomenal job with the streaming service. Everyone had glitches in the first couple of weeks, including a little bit us.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't necessarily to do with any of the tech on our side. A lot of it was to do with the streaming provider. That looks now as though it's resolved. So, Bar stream last week, by all accounts, was excellent. I think we're a lot more confident now to say, come in. Obviously, people spending money behind the bar and having our famous pizzas makes a difference. And there's so few forms of income at the minute that I would encourage all of the Havant fans to come down and help us out.
Just staying on the income side, we found out yesterday from the National League that the clubs have been given their national lottery money. It's massive for us, obviously, to keep playing these games behind closed doors.
Yeah, without it, as I said, we were reluctant. I think all the non-league North and South clubs were reluctant to participate in the FA Cup without knowing that there was a guarantee. Because once you play your first game, contracts are activated, and at that point it would have meant a sizable amount of money going out each month. So the fact that we've got that guaranteed, as it's now confirmed, it's a huge benefit. And whilst we were criticised by other supporters of other clubs for wanting to be elite for the playoffs, I think in the long run it's going to have proved for everybody to be a massive benefit, because without us being elite we wouldn't have got the money. That's number one. I think number two, if there are circuit breakers going on, then elite football will continue. That's another benefit. So we've remained fairly quiet and philosophical about people's comments about us pushing for it, but without us pushing for it and you're pushing for it at the time, we wouldn't be considered elite and we wouldn't be getting this money at the end of each month, and it wouldn't be football. So from that point of view, as I said, I can sit here and feel that what we did was right at the time. I thought it was right that we ended up having an opportunity, but even more so now that football's going to continue at elite level.
Squad-wise, we've got a brand new signing coming through the door, someone that Hawks fans from last year may remember from Willstone, and that's George McLennan.
Yeah, very pleased to get George. He's here initially for 6 weeks, but I think he'll be longer. Someone that I had at Sutton with me was a rising star with Cheltenham. Unfortunately, again, another sort of Tommy Wright situation. He suffered from mental health issues and got himself back really well as well. And unfortunately, obviously suffered the injury against us last season at the Vale. And it's someone that has got, for me, a balance for our squad, because we needed just that one more left-sided player. George can give competition now for Strakes at left back, certainly, and he can also play left side centre half. So, if we do lose Moose or Strakes, then George definitely gives us that strength and depth to the squad. Really good lad, but he's got a lovely left foot, quick. And my hope for him is that if I can get him back, which I've done before with the likes of Rory Deacon, if I can get him back to where he wants to be, or where he can get to, then the kid's got a real opportunity to get back to playing league football, I think.
I suppose the first steps for George after being out for so long is making sure he's 100% fit, and then from there is making sure he has that competition, because in a small squad you want the sort of versatility that George provides.
Yeah, I mean, the squad's beginning to fill out a bit better now. We're going to talk about another young player that we brought in from France in a minute, but all of a sudden we have got 6 or 7, 18, 19, 20-year-olds to add into the experience of sort of 13, 14 players. But George is not a young player, he's 24. Again, brilliant age for the fit, but already he's been in for 3 sessions before we signed him. But we probably need to give him 2 or 3 weeks to get up to our sort of match fitness and match speed. So, as I said, I do see George being a big part of this squad for the rest of the season.
What do you think his greatest asset is?
Probably his ability to go past people. I think he's got pace, and he does provide a fantastic end product as well. But in the main, for me, it was the fact that he's got that left foot, and we were struggling last year. I think we only had one left-footed player in the squad. The balance is better this year with Diarra now, Straker, and obviously George McLennan.
Another young player that's come in from France, Mathieu Luce. I know there's been a lot of talk about him on social media the last couple of weeks. A really exciting young signing this is.
Yeah, only 18. was with a championship side, which is a high level in France, and was in their squad of first team squad of 20. Played mainly for the reserves in the French League Division 3, but instantly within a couple of sessions of him turning up and seeing him, it was a chance meeting really. But he's come in, he's done particularly well, and he's now actually in the house with the other 5 young ones. So there's all 6 are in the house at Winchester, and it's a good environment there for them. There's competition within the house even to do well at training and be part of it. So it sort of fits the profile again. He'll give Benny Reid a run for his money, which again is important. No one can rest on their laurels. But I've got to say, I think Benny started the season fantastically well again, and but Matteo can learn a lot from this group, especially the older ones. And if Benny's injured, then Matteo will get his chance.
Obviously, we've had a few of the academy players also come in and do some training with us. It is showing that the pathway is working. Matteo is a prime example of that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to look out here today. The first team are training on one half of the pitch. We've got the academy on the other half. I think there's only 50 boys here today. And they're absolutely loving it, being alongside the first team. I think we've already had 3 players from that academy team come in and train with us because it helps with numbers. So again, all the benefits of being on site, not as much as we like the front lawn, just being here and being on site is making a real difference to training, and just the whole feel-good factor about the thing.
What do you think Matteo's biggest asset is? Pace.
Very, very quick, aggressive, and for an 18-year-old, very similar to Christian, he's got a physicality about him that you don't normally see from someone so young. So again, very impressed with him. Saw him put Simon Walton on his backside 2 or 3 times in training last week, which I quite enjoyed. But yeah, he's got pace, and he's got a physicality to him, which obviously you're going to need for these types of levels of football.
Watching him train, he's got a bit of a maturity, a little bit above his years. You wouldn't tell he's an 18-year-old player. You're just giving him on a blank canvas.
Well, not many people leave their parents at 18 and literally get to Heathrow Airport and not really know what he's going to do. He just felt he wanted to come to England. His initial thought was he wanted to join in with the Havant Academy and see if he could get into the academy team and perhaps do some English lessons. But within 1 or 2 sessions of seeing him, his sort of journey's changed. He's now into the first team squad. He's now in at the house with the other 5, and he's no longer looking at developing his English through doing a BTEC. He's doing it on the football pitch, and he's got the help of Betsy Gomez and Musa, which I think is really helpful. But he's a really good kid, and I think you see it. I think the energy around the place, especially with the young ones. It's got better and better, and even the experienced ones, the average age of them's come right down as well. You look at George McLennan now. Thinking he's experienced, he's only 24. Josh Taylor only 24. Righty 23. So we've got even our older players are now in that sort of mid-20 bracket. So yeah, it's a really good mix at the moment.
Could be one of the great footballing stories, Matthews, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he literally just turned up. No one knew anything about him. He was told by an agent that Havant Academy were waiting for him at the airport, which was a lie. No one knew anything about it. He then turns up. He gets a train from Paddington, I think, to Havant. Literally walks to the ground. Still no one knew anything about him, and he ends up managing to get hold of Tony Stairs. And it was Tony that said to me, "Look, this kid's turned up from nowhere. He's been in with me a couple of times. He looks decent." And from there, obviously, the rest could be history.
The rest could be history indeed. Let's talk a bit more off the field, because the Platinum Club's really starting to take shape, and you can see around the ground all the different various advertising boards from all the other different sponsors, corporate and community partners, and there's a real nice growth off the pitch commercially, which culminated, of course, with the Draper Tools Community Stadium.
Yeah, I think Draper Tools coming on board is probably one of the best things that could have happened for this football club. They put in a decent amount of money to enable us to employ community officers, which we couldn't have done if they hadn't. They've been backed up now by other people coming on board. Paris Smith, the solicitors from Southampton, have put in a sizable amount of money again to help us with our community work, and so has Stag Security. Stag, who were with us last year, come on board now also as community trust partners, and we're still talking to 1 or 2 other big companies as well. And if we get these 2 other big companies, then I think the club can feel very, very proud. We've got 5 major companies backing the community schemes that we're going to put in place. That includes the walk-in football, which you've already seen. I think we've got nearly 50 walking footballers here, but we are desperate to get into the schools. We're certainly desperate to get into our disability groups and let them come and enjoy it. And the process is that we're looking at opening up a community hour between 5 and 6 every night of the week, where different parts of the communities can come here, be coached as well. So there's so much that we need to do, and we're doing it. And I'm very proud of everyone's efforts so far. And as I said, to attract the likes of Draper Tools, Paris Smith, Drew Smith, and also potentially a couple of others that we're talking to this week. It's probably the club's never been as good a place to serve the community, and I think that's why we're here. I think the first team is obviously important, but if we can become, I think the mayor described us as being the cathedral of the town. I thought I listened to that and thought it was a great analogy. We want to be a hub where people want to come here. People won't know this, but we've now got 2 classrooms coming. We've got 60 children that we're teaching at this ground, BTEC in maths and English, and then they're playing football in the mornings and afternoons. So much happening, so much good stuff, so much, that I want to be part of in terms of these young people. I think sport's massive for mental health, getting people out of that environment of being on the PlayStation and coming here and getting out in the fresh air, and it will culminate eventually when supporters are allowed back, and it's going to happen. It will happen at some point. And I think the benefits of that is that all the community will want to come and be part of this on a Saturday afternoon as well, and our crowds will just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Great news as well for companies like Stag Security, who are going to be on the front of the Academy shirt. And I think one of the biggest things I've seen since the 3G's gone in is how much closer the Academy is becoming aligned to the football. Of course, it was close, but I feel like it's now kind of becoming hand in glove. Now they're here as well at the football club full time.
Well, because you start to see the young men. You start to say good morning to them, and that they're there with you. And that's one of the things you're looking at, their behaviour. Their punctuality. All the important things that the first team have to adhere to, the academy are adhering to, and I've got to say I've been watching them the last 3 weeks and been very, very impressed with all of them. They're good young men, and I watched them come back from 2-0 down against Eastleigh the other day and get a 2-2 draw, and that wasn't even our strongest 11 as such. And it's not even about ability as much; it's about getting young men to come out and play football. I think keeping them off of the streets as well, keeping them. The worst thing in the world is boredom, and I think the fact that we can offer, such a fantastic venue for them, but also great coaching. Tony Stairs does a brilliant job, but so impressed with Joe Ostler and Craig Stairs as well. I mean, the two boys there as coaches and as people, I'm very, very impressed with them, and again, massive asset to this football club now.
What's also been great, and you've probably seen it on social media the same as me, is the amount of teams that are on Twitter and they're sending photos, whether it's kids teams, adults teams, any sort of teams, girls teams. They're all tweeting and saying how much they're enjoying it, how much enjoyment they're getting out of it, and that is totally exactly the way we wanted to do with this 3G.
Yeah, as I said, it was and let's be in no doubt, it was specific as well for the first team. We needed to get first team matches on a regular basis. We needed to play on and it does look like a fantastic grass pitch instead of the mud and whatever from October. But the main reason that we did it was to open this whole place up. Football clubs can't survive opening once every 2 weeks. It's just not possible. I think the strain that it was putting on Derek's finances all the time was too much. We were relying on one person too much, and I think that eventually the club will be much more self-sustainable. I think it's clear that without Derek here, the last 25 years, the club wouldn't be in a position that it is. And I just felt one of my jobs when I came here was to try and take some of that pressure off of Derek. He's getting no younger, like all of us. But it's great to see Derek and Mark, Hope, his son, and Richie just, probably being non-believers, if the truth be known, that they were concerned about the effect of a 3G pitch. I think that I think the whole Pope family look at this now and are absolutely loving it. And I watched Derek come down and watch the academy game the other day. I watched Derek then on the walk playing the walk-in football with the over 50s, and we couldn't have done that. None of these people currently here today, including the first team, could have trained on the pitch. So I think there's about 80 people here this morning, and that's because of the pitch. And it's we've only just started.
It's fantastic, Paul. I know everyone, all the fans, appreciate these little Doscasts, so thank you so much for your time.
Cheers, Henry. Thank you.